into the trap. C. What are the traps that Satan has plotted in your life? If you are like the rest of the world, you have struggles. There are certain temptations that always catch you. Maybe you've toyed with the idea that God is the one who gives you the shell. That thought really is a trap of the enemy. If he can make you doubt God, he is gaining ground in your heart, because when you start doubting God, you start not believing him and not trusting him. Please stay alert of this devil's trap. James 1:13-15 says, 13 Let no one, when tempted, say, it is God who is tempting me. Because God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. 14 On the contrary, each person is tempted when his own evil desires drag him down and seduce him. 15 Then when desire has conceived, it begets sin, and sin, when it is consummated, gives birth to death. A New Testament case. 2 Timothy 4:9-10 says, 9 Do everything you can to come to me as soon as possible. 10 For Demas, for the love of this world, has abandoned me and gone to Thessalonica. To understand this passage, we need to understand Paul's situation. In this context, 1. First of all, he is in his last season of his life. Now, his great ministry is to prepare the next generation of pastors and evangelists. Timothy is a good example, as is Titus, Crescentus and Tychicus. 2. Secondly, Paul is currently in prison. Therefore, he expressed his desire to see Timothy. He also feels very alone, even abandoned by one of his apprentices. His name is Demas. B. Why did Demas abandon Paul? The scriptures say for the love of this world. The roaring lion was hovering around him, studying him, observing him and waiting for the perfect moment to attack. He attacked it and then devoured it. We don't know what the trap was. We don't know exactly that he distracted Demas, but we do know that he believed Satan's lie. He began to not believe God. He abandoned his teacher. He abandoned his calling to satisfy a sinful craving. C. Paul also had the option of leaving the ministry. He could have said, I can't take it anymore. Everyone has abandoned me. Even Alexander, the blacksmith, has harmed me. 2 Timothy 4:14. I cannot anymore. I want to live the rest of my life in peace without any conflict. In verse 16, Paul said, No one supported me, but everyone forsook me. What would you do? 242. In a similar situation, would you abandon God? Would you believe the lie that God has abandoned you? Be careful with those thoughts. Practice self-control, and stay alert. D. At that moment, the enemy was staring at him ready to pounce. Even Paul, a giant of faith, an apostle, was not exempt from the attacks of the devil. E. I want you to notice verse 17. Notice how he remained alert. How he practiced self-control. But the Lord was at my side and he gave me strength so that through me the preaching of the message could be carried out, and all the pagans could hear it. And I was delivered from the mouth of the lion. 2 Timothy 4:17. 1. This is how God is in the midst of the enemy's attacks, in the midst of his evil strategies. God is always present. He is capable of completely rescuing you, but also giving you the strength so that you can withstand the attacks and emerge victorious. 2. Even in prison, and by the way, he was never freed. Paul said that because of the strength that God gave him, he could say that he was freed from the lion's mouth. IV. A case from the Old Testament. A. Now I want you to consider a true story from the Old Testament. You can read the story in Daniel chapter 6. B. Show a piece of the movie The Book of Daniel. Daniel in the lion's den. C. In the midst of a very serious circumstance, Daniel remained alert, clinging to his faith in the sovereign. In verse 22, Daniel stated, My God sent his angel from him and shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel 6:22. Conclusion and invitation. Now, what do you say? Do you think God is a hustler? Or do you believe that God is trustworthy? Please don't delay your decision. God is ready to receive you today. Please, put all your trust in him. Now what? This week I want you to be very sensitive to the enemy's attacks. Don't fall into the trap that God is setting for you. Satan is the sheller. If you remain alert and practice self-control, you will see that God will never abandon you and will always give you a way out so that you can endure. This week, I want you to memorize 1 Corinthians 10:13. You have not suffered any temptation that is not common to the human race. But God is faithful, and he will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you can endure. Rather, when temptation comes, he will also give you a way out so that you can resist. 243. Become a member of the channel and be an instrument of the Word of God. Don't miss this opportunity to impact lives. Click the link in the description now and help us spread the Word of God. God is omnipresent. Or Tucked In by Scott Hudgens. Summary. The truth of omnipresence can be disturbing or comforting. God is omnipresent or tucked. In introduction, last week we considered God's omniscience. We conclude that God is not a know-it-all, but he does know everything. He knows everything we have done, and he knows everything we are going to do. He knows us totally because he truly is omniscient. David said the following, Lord, you examine me, you know me. 2. You know when I sit down and when I get up. Even from a distance you read my thoughts. 3. You know my bustles and rests. All my ways are familiar to you. 4. The word has not yet reached my tongue when you, Lord, already know it all. 5. Your protection surrounds me completely. You cover me with the palm of your hand. 6. Knowledge so wonderful surpasses my understanding, so sublime is it that I cannot understand it. Psalm 139. 1-6. David is extolling the omniscience of God. He recognizes that he is incapable of understanding everything from God's point of view. David, like you and me, was a finite man with many limitations of knowledge, while God does not have a single limitation because he is infinite. He knows everything and knows everyone. The most impressive thing is that knowing everything and knowing everyone, he still longs for a relationship with us. Despite our disobedience, our sin, he continues to seek us, continues to show us patience and compassion. Awesome. Omniscience is one of the 3 divine attributes that begins with the prefix omni. Omni comes from Latin and means everything. Therefore, omniscient means all-knowing. The other 2 divine attributes are omnipresence and omnipotence. God is omnipresent, which means that God is every place in him at all times. Omnipotence refers to the power that God has. He is all-powerful. They are attributes of God and only God. Today we will discuss the attribute of God's omnipresence. God is omnipresent. Stay out of it. A personal illustration. I am the oldest of 3 brothers. I am 8 years older than my sister and 10 years older than my brother. In general, I had a good relationship with my brothers.